Hello, true crime fanatics and suspense seekers, and welcome to another episode of Crime Stories of Pakistan. I'm your host, Naz.
And I'm Jehan.
So, to all of our veteran listeners, thank you so much for listening to us and for showing your support and love. And for all the new listeners, welcome and thank you for tuning in. We appreciate all of you, and we want to give out a special shout out once again to Abi Hussein for suggesting this case and for avidly listening to our episodes. So thank you for that. Okay, so
Mhm.
Jihan, I'm anxiously waiting to hear what happens in part two of the Shafila Ahmed case. So take it away.
All right, Naz, thanks. I'm just going to do a quick recap, but if you haven't heard it yet, we're going to link the episode to part one in the description below. So please go click that first, hear that before starting this episode. But for all those who have heard part one, we did speak about the intense oppression, abuse, and suffocation Shafila Ahmed experienced throughout her life in the UK. We discussed how the severity of her treatment drove her to run away 3 times. And then we ended the episode with her being drugged and taken to Pakistan. So let's explore what unfolds next. When Shafila arrived in Pakistan, she found herself in a world vastly different from her life in the UK. The rural village of Gujarat featured a mix of traditional mud and brick homes alongside more modern constructions. Basic infrastructure such as roads and sanitation were limited, making it quite alien to someone from the UK. For Shafila, the daily rhythm of life in this village, the expectations, the customs, all of it made her feel like an outsider. She didn't belong. She stood out like a sore thumb. And that feeling of isolation only deepened the longer she stayed. Her passport was with her parents, and the harsh treatment she had endured from her parents was likely amplified by other family members echoing her parents' sentiments. The village offered no refuge or assistance. There was no one to turn to for help. And any attempt to escape would have only led to her being returned to her family. Shafilea was desperately unhappy and trapped. Within just a few days of being there, the weight of her parents' true intentions fell on her like a crushing blow. They hadn't brought her to Pakistan for her cousin's wedding. She knew they were here to marry her off against her will. Shafila was shown photographs of potential suitors with oiled hair and mustaches, but she was not interested in the proposals. During this time, she's 16, Naz.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what she's going through because in my mind, a 16-year-old is still a child.
Yeah. And then imagine being shown potential suitors, desi, Pakistanis, oiled hair, mustaches, probably much older because that's a custom in Pakistan, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then she couldn't even run away because her parents had kept her passport.
And you know the sad part that these men just
Hmm.
to leave Pakistan and go to the UK
Hmm.
would probably do anything. So if marriage is there's a proposal, they're gonna say yes without a doubt.
Yeah, unfortunately, for the passport, they'll do anything.
Mhm.
The account I will share now has been stated by Shafila's sister A. During their visit in Pakistan, Shafilia and Farzana argued as usual on things her mother found shameful, disgraceful. One such incident occurred when they argued because an aunt had caught her outside the house without a shawl draped over her. Quote, Mom got really furious, saying a lot of people would be talking about her. They started arguing, and there was a lot of shouting in the room. My sister came out of the room holding her arm, and she had treatment. It was sprained badly. Unquote. Notice how she says had treatment.
Yeah, what does that mean?
That whole aspect of her twisting her arm because she didn't have a shawl over her was her mother treating Shafilia's bad behavior. Saying it's treatment, like that's the level of manipulation the kids are in, where something as drastic as physical abuse is seen as we're doing it for her benefit. We're treating her disgraceful actions.
My
Had
God.
treatment. Imagine.
Wow. Yeah, they're super brainwashed.
Labeled as shameless and haath se nikal gayi, which means out of control by her parents and the local community, Shafilia's desperation escalated. Quote, my mom made a remark to Shafilia, which I think was what triggered Shafilia to do what she did. My mom told Shafilia she would be staying in Pakistan and wouldn't be going back to the UK. It was then when Shafilia went to the bathroom and ingested bleach.
Mm.
After that, everyone just heard Shafilia screaming and shouting. We all went outside and she was holding her stomach. As other family members rushed to sought for medical help, Mom stated she was okay when she clearly was not. Unquote.
My God, Shafila had to take such a drastic measure because she felt like there was no other way out.
Yeah. He knew, like, remember we had talked in part one how she started telling Joanne Code, her teacher, that they're going to get me married. They're going to get me married. They're going to get me married in Pakistan. They're going to get me married in Pakistan.
Yeah.
That that horror was like becoming reality right in front of her eyes. And when, and I'm sure that this is not the first altercation they had. I'm sure they were fighting from before. It was the same, like her mother abusing her, beating her, other family members chiming in and basically egging her mother on.
Hmm.
But when her mother said, no, we're going to get you married off and we're leaving you here as a 16-year-old, you're just like, what, how do I get out of this situation? Like the desperateness
Hmm.
caused her to go into the bathroom and ingest bleach. Like that is terrific.
Yeah, that's extreme measurement. That means that she really had no other way.
Yeah. And again, we need to be mindful of the fact that this is a rural village in Gujarat. There's no one to go to for help.
Hmm.
There's no one who would understand where she's coming from. This whole aspect of getting your daughter married off without her consent, without her will, forcing her, it's so normal. It's such a normal tradition there.
Yeah, that's true. And this was in what year again?
This was in 2002.
Okay.
Shafilea was rushed to a local hospital. The ingestion resulted in severe burns to her throat and esophagus. Shafilea was hospitalized, even though the hospital had inadequate medical facilities. The local doctor, unable to provide the necessary care, recommended transferring her. Shafilia's condition rapidly worsened. She lost significant weight. She was nearing death. While Shafilia fought for her life in Pakistan, Naz, guess what Iftikhar was doing?
He was doing wedding preparations?
Yeah, that was in his plan, but no, Iftikhar returned to the UK.
Oh.
He cashed in her return ticket for a £250 refund.
Mm.
She is fighting for her life in Pakistan in a village that does not have the facilities to cater to her burns. And
My God.
he is sitting in UK cashing in her return ticket thinking, you know what? She's not coming back.
And where's the mother during all of this?
She's with her.
Okay, so Iftikhar is the only one that went back.
Hmm.
What a horrible father.
They're disgusting parents. I'm shocked such people
And
become
this is
parents.
his like first born child with this woman, the eldest. And He has no regard for her life whatsoever. That's so sad.
He has no regard for women.
Yeah, that's true.
So, Iftikhar's behavior shows that he viewed Shafilia's medical crisis as merely as a temporary inconvenience for his plan of marrying her off and abandoning her in Pakistan. During this critical period, and knowing the local hospital could not facilitate Shafilia's injuries, Iftikhar still delayed purchasing her return ticket. But soon, Iftikhar realized that his plan was failing, as no one in the village would agree to marry Shafilia. Her desperate attempt to escape this ongoing torment and abuse was met with neither compassion nor empathy from those around her. Instead, it further deteriorated Shafilia's reputation within the local community. The already judgmental villagers now branded her as damaged goods.
I know that's horrible, but I feel like the silver lining is that at least now no one's going to marry her there. So she won't be forced into a situation that she doesn't want to be in.
True, that's a very positive way of seeing it.
Yeah. I mean, it's still absolutely horrifying that the villagers and family members aren't showing any sympathy.
Mhm.
But then again, they've probably been told a totally different story, right? That she's a rebel or she's been
Mhm.
causing us trouble or who knows what they have been told, what they've been fed. So, based on that, I can see why they wouldn't sympathize with her because they they just don't know any better.
And also, if you look at this whole incident of her trying to commit suicide, ordinarily the girl is supposed to comply, right?
Hmm.
This is seen as her even talking back to her mother is seen as disrespect. And then her having such a strong mind to take such a drastic step. Any family who approaches for marriage will be like, oh my God, this is the behavior I'll have to deal with if we get our son married off to her. So it's like this is a headache we don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
She's too strong minded. She doesn't comply. She doesn't stay quiet. She doesn't listen. She doesn't go, gee, Hazur. Yes, absolutely. You're my master, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. And plus, this is the villagers, right? So their
Mhm.
mentality and mindset is very different than people that are living in the UK or even in big cities within Pakistan.
Absolutely. Yeah. We still have people in the city who unfortunately think the same way, but you're absolutely right. In the village, it's even more.
Hmm.
Just to come back to that being branded as damaged goods, like I was very triggered by this because I myself have experienced that living in Pakistan. You do anything out of the tradition, the norm, you speak up, you wear certain clothes, even if they're not revealing,
Hmm.
you are labeled as fast, westernized, damaged. So it just kind of reconfirms the whole mindset that men can
Hmm.
behave however they want, they won't face any judgment, but women are often condemned for even the smallest transgressions.
Yeah, that's
And
the
it's
sad
just
reality of Pakistani society.
Pakistani society, whether living in Pakistan or abroad.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just really, really heartbreaking, Naz, that even in her most fragile and vulnerable state, she was still viewed as the villain rather than receiving some sense of compassion, some understanding. She deserved that. But no, no, she was damaged goods, हाथ से निकल गई, dishonorable, shameful. It's just really heartbreaking.
It is.
So now maybe you're thinking, what drove Iftikhar to finally bring Shafilia back to the UK? So a potential groom withdrew his marriage proposal upon learning about Shafilia's situation. And it was only then when Iftikhar finally realized, okay, this is not working out, we need to bring her back. So then on the 27th of May 2003, after spending 4 months in Pakistan, Shafilia finally returned to Warrington, UK. On arrival, she was immediately rushed to the hospital. Her condition was very serious, so she spent several weeks undergoing treatment. Shafilia's sister A later told the court that when Shafilia came home from Pakistan, she was in the hospital in Warrington for 3 months and weighed 31 kg.
My
She
God.
was struggling to gain weight because obviously her esophagus and her throat is burned, so she's not eating anything. Anything that they're giving her probably is through a pipe.
Mm.
And those medical facilities were not available in the village in Gujarat. The father, mother didn't think about taking her to a proper city hospital.
I think deep down they kind of just wanted that if this kills her, oh well, too bad, so sad.
I honestly, Naz, think the same thing. Their plan was leave her in Pakistan, whether she dies there or she gets married there. But it's very unfortunate. But thankfully, once she was back in the UK, Shafilia started to recover physically. She started putting on weight. So there was a small sign of hope, a glimpse that maybe things could get better for her.
Mhm.
However, let's make a note over here. This is the UK at the end of the day. It's not Pakistan. You can buy silence in Pakistan. You can't buy it in the UK.
Yeah.
So the hospital staff were very curious about what led Shafilia to drink bleach in Pakistan.
Mhm.
The initial story the medical staff received was that Shafilia had accidentally ingested bleach, mistaking it for mouthwash. This narrative of Shafilia mistaking drinking bleach as if it were mouthwash seems absolutely bizarre. Because even if someone mistook bleach for mouthwash,
You wouldn't ingest it.
exactly why would you consume it? You don't consume mouthwash. You gargle it and then you throw it out.
So did they think that the story would survive in the UK?
It did though.
Wow.
And
Then please tell me then at some point they got the truth.
who got the truth?
The UK medical staff or the
No,
police?
the police did, but not the medical staff.
My God.
And her parents, they were present throughout Shafilia's hospitalization. They never left her alone, even for a second.
Because they were afraid she would tell the truth.
Exactly. Because their concern was far from genuine. Because now that they were back in the UK, Shafila was aware of her rights. She had the means to seek help. So if she was left alone, she would have revealed the real reason behind her visit to Pakistan and the circumstances leading to her suicide attempt. And this obviously would have prompted the hospital to involve the authorities and it would expose her parents. This is why Iftikhar and Farzana had their constant presence, making sure Shafila was not left alone even for a second. It was a very calculated effort to protect themselves.
Evil parents. Absolutely evil.
I just wanted to make a note here as well that she spent her last birthday, her 17th birthday, in the hospital.
Oh,
And once Shafilia's condition improved, she was sent back home with her parents. And I just want to say something. Personally, I see this as another way Shafilia was failed by those around her. Here, she was a vulnerable young girl recovering from a horrific incident, yet no one dug deeper into the root cause of why she drank bleach in Pakistan. I can't help but wonder, what if the hospital staff had contacted the police? What if they had launched an investigation into why she was in such distress? Could her life have been saved? Maybe this case would have ended differently. This is another example of how, even in the UK, the system failed her. Even after this whole ordeal, instead of finding relief, Shafila encountered even harsher control and stricter restrictions. She was barred from returning to high school, isolated from her friends, and any trace of normal teenage life was stripped away. A shared, quote, Shafila did what my mother asked her to. She became more compliant with their wishes and enrolled in a sixth form college because she wanted to be a lawyer. Unquote. It breaks my heart to know that despite everything, Shafila still tried to comply with her parents' wishes. She made every effort to avoid further conflict, to prevent more violence. But her desperate attempts to conform weren't enough. The brutality she endured never ceased. Iftikhar and Farzana displayed no guilt, no remorse, or fear of God.
So she went right back into that hellhole.
And it became worse. Even though she was complying, I think her parents were a little high on that control, that they exercised this control all her life, and now suddenly she was complying to it. So I think they got a little high off it and
Mhm.
became even more harsher
Yeah, they wanted to maybe take it to the next level.
to make sure she doesn't slip up again. A further shared that any visitors who came to see Shafilea were turned away at the door. Quote, my mother answered the door and said she wasn't at home. The friends knocked on the door again as they had seen Shafilea. But mom called Shafilea downstairs and told her in Urdu that she must tell them she did not wish to speak to them. Unquote. Even a simple visit from friends became another moment of control. Shafilea was, however, permitted to work part time at the ManWeb call center, but Farzana ensured that she was always the one picking her up and dropping her off. Shafilia's parents even kept most of her earnings. Maybe that's why she was allowed to work.
But like at the call center,
Hmm.
that would be her time away from
Hmm.
her family.
Yeah.
Couldn't Shafia just call the police?
I don't know, Naz. I don't know what kind of mindset she was in. She's fragile, she's weak, she's still recovering. Maybe she didn't have the strength in her to confront her parents that way again. I don't know the reasons why she didn't use that opportunity. I don't even know who were her co workers. Like, when I read this, I assumed maybe there was someone within the Desi community who kept an eye on Shafilea, which is why they allowed her to work at this particular call center. Like, I don't know the details of that. But there's
Yeah, that's
definitely
possible.
something stopping her from reaching out for help. But I wish she had to. But I cannot understand, obviously, where she's coming from. So,
What about her teacher or her ex teacher, counselor?
yeah, she comes into play later on in this case.
Okay.
Shafilia's post operative care continued during this time, and Farzana always accompanied her to those medical appointments. All the connections that Shafilea had built were severed. Farzana made sure of that. The abuse, isolation, and emotional torment resumed. And if you can believe it, it even escalated to greater extremes. Shafilea poured her pain into her writing, sharing feelings that no one around her seemed to hear. I want to share a poem written by Shafilea Ahmed titled I Feel Trapped. I feel trapped, so stuck. I don't know what to do. The feeling is mutual. I don't know how to explain. I'm trapped, so trapped, so trapped. Now you know where I stand. When I fall back, I got nowhere else to land. I don't know how to say, I'm trapped, so trapped, I'm trapped with you. It was my last year in school, so happy with my friends. I got lots to do. But came this day when everything changed. I came home. It seemed like a normal day, but something wasn't right. I wish I could have changed the event. I should have killed myself instead. I'd rather have been dead. Because now I have a burden on my chest, and no, it won't go away. The guilt, the pain. When I look back on things I could have changed, could have stopped, prevented, exchanged, but I had to turn out this way, so trapped. Now I'm sitting on my window bay, looking at the rain, drowning sorrow and pain. Will this ever go away? I feel trapped, so trapped. I'm trapped. I'm trapped, so trapped. I'm trapped. I don't know what to do. I feel trapped, but my family ignore.
What a sad poem.
I feel this poem she probably wrote when she came back from Pakistan
Well,
and completely isolated. And God, like to think that a 16-year-old feels this way, a 17-year-old feels this way, it just,
thickening.
it's really, really heartbreaking. It just shows she's so hopeless. She feels unheard, she feels unseen, she feels ignored, she feels trapped. She actually has written that she wished she killed herself. She rather be dead.
Mhm. She's probably hoping that or she's probably at this point regretting the fact that the bleach didn't end up just killing her.
Yeah. Maybe a part of her felt that once they came back, she complied. Maybe they would soften up with her. Maybe they would
Hmm.
realize, maybe we don't
Yeah.
need to be so harsh. She's listening. So there is that positivity. But the fact that even after complying, she still feels this way, it just, Farzana and Iftikhar are, God, my blood boils.
Scums of the earth.
Disgusting, disgusting, disgusting parents. Then there was silence. By early September 2003, Shafilea had stopped attending her part time job. She was no longer seen out and about, where previously she had been frequently spotted with her mother or spending time in the garden. On September 18, 2003, Shafilia's absence was noted by Joanne Code, her former German teacher, and it was she who reported her missing after overhearing Shafilia's younger siblings expressing concerns about her well being to their friends.
Wow.
Following the report, the police launched a missing person inquiry. They interviewed her parents, friends, and classmates, gradually uncovering the troubling history of abuse she had endured. When her parents were questioned about why they hadn't filed a missing persons report themselves, Iftikhar and Farzana dismissed the situation. They claimed there was no need for alarm, insisting that Shafilea had run away before and would return eventually. This nonchalant attitude was puzzling. After all, during the previous three instances where she had ran away, it was them who had reported her missing. Now, suddenly, they feel no urgency to take action. It raises some serious red flags. Don't you think, Nas?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually kind of nervous as to what's going to happen.
Yeah, like suddenly, if the car and Fazana are like, oh, she's ran away before, she'll come back. Excuse me. Where was this attitude before the three times she ran away? Because it was you guys who filed a missing report all three times. Now,
Hmm.
suddenly, you don't find it alarming that she's ran away?
They did something.
I think anyone who's hearing this knows there's definitely involvement from the parents when it comes to Shafilia's disappearance.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. And I just want to take a moment to mention Detective Superintendent Gerent Jones, who played a major, major, major role in this case. So, Detective Jones, he inquired why, if the car hadn't reported Shafilea missing, he highlighted how unusual it was for parents to remain silent after their daughter had been absent for over a week. Iftikhar casually suggested that she might be at her boyfriend's house, yet he couldn't
Hmm.
provide any specifics, not even the name of this alleged boyfriend.
Okay.
So this response, it's really troublesome because we all know that Iftikhar and Farzana had a very tight grip on Shafilia's life. So this sudden indifference and oh, she's probably at a boyfriend's house. Like, are you serious, Iftikhar? Really?
I'm like literally shaking my head.
So those close to Shafilea found this latest runaway incident inconsistent with her past behavior. She had always made her intentions clear before. This time, however, there was a troubling silence around her. The Desi community viewed her disappearance as a recurring act that could bring shame to the family. Iftikhar and Farzana Ahmed seemed more focused on their public image than on searching for their daughter. They told the investigation team they wanted to avoid media involvement, fearing that it would bring shame to their family. They're still thinking about their public image.
Screw the image.
I swear to God, like what image? What reputation? What the hell are you guys talking about? Your daughter is missing.
Yeah, there's bigger issues at play here.
Yeah. Journalist Helen Carter, who covered the story, noted that Shafilia's parents were absent from media appeals. She remarked that they showed little interest in engaging with media or asking for public help. This was unusual compared to how families typically respond in similar situations. I mean, Naz, even those parents who are involved in foul play, like we will see them appealing to the media,
Hmm.
publicly speaking, crying, wailing, asking people to help them find their child, even though we know that they have killed their child. How many cases like that have we seen where parents who actually are the murderers have appealed to the media and they actually kept that facade? The fact that Farzana and Iftikhar don't even bother to do that just shows how they really don't care. They really never cared about Shafila.
Yeah, I mean, their guilt is like dripping from every angle. It's so loud, it's so in your face.
Yeah, just guilt or just indifference. Like, they
Mhm.
say in Urdu, jhoote muh hi kar lo. Like, even do it with, even if it's a facade, even if it's a lie, to keep your so called image. Come on TV and cry and wail and ask the public for help, but you're not even doing that.
Yeah, exactly. They truly are indifferent. It's just like one other day in their life. No big
Yeah,
deal.
no big deal. Oh, it doesn't matter. She's with a boyfriend. She'll come back. But Detective Jones, he remained hopeful that Shafila might need medical assistance in the future due to her ongoing post care appointments. So his team notified all local hospitals and pharmacies, asking them to be on alert in case Shafila appeared. Because remember, this is still a missing person case. So
Agree.
Detective Jones is hoping, because she still has to visit the doctor, still has to pick up medication because of her throat and an esophagus, maybe somebody catches a glimpse of her.
Mhm.
And then luckily, Detective Jones received a call from a local pharmacy that believed the girl they were searching for might have visited their store. They suggested he review the CCTV footage to verify. Detective Jones, he went to the pharmacy, but he was unable to determine if the girl on the footage was Shafila. So, in order to get a clearer answer, he brought Iftikhar and Farzana to view the footage. And upon seeing it, they confirmed that the girl was indeed their daughter. Like they would say, yes, that's her,
Eh,
that's Shafila, we told you, we told you.
I know exactly why they're doing what they're doing.
To take away suspicion, right?
Yeah.
But we do know that it wasn't the parents who filed the missing report. It was Joanne Court. And it was very smart of Detective Jones to reach out to her and ask her to identify the girl in the CCTV footage. Joanne Code stated that despite the fact that they both had dark hair, she noted significant differences in the girl's mannerisms and facial features. And it actually turned out that the girl in the CCTV footage was actually Turkish and it wasn't Shafilea Ahmed.
Worrying.
But this very fact that Shafilia's own parents couldn't recognize their daughter, where her former teacher could, it just confirmed to Detective Jones that Iftikhar and Farzana are definitely involved.
Oh, yeah. It's so obvious.
And they're just so dumb. Like, do you think
Like,
Detective Jones is
dumb is
not
an
going to ask?
understatement.
Yeah. Are they not going to ask anyone else? Are you stupid?
They are.
I just don't understand. But as the investigation progressed, the police intensified their efforts, obtaining permission to place surveillance on Iftikhar and Farzana's home and Iftikhar's taxi. And during one of his taxi rides, Iftikhar made a provocative statement asserting that even if he had killed 40 people, the police couldn't prosecute him without concrete evidence.
Oh God, that's so overconfident.
Cocky. He's so cocky. Although the surveillance captured conversations of interest, there was insufficient evidence to charge Iftikhar and Farzana. To make matters worse, Naz, Detective Jones' attempts to engage with the local Desi community about Shafilea was met with a wall of silence. No one spoke about her.
The local Desi community is just as useless as the Desi community back in Pakistan. Sorry, Desis are just useless. Yeah, Shafilea has been let down by so many people. I've lost track.
Yeah. But Detective Jones was determined to either break the parents or gain insights from the Muslim community. So he launched a new strategy. And just shout out to Detective Jones because he really did whatever he could to investigate and to find some evidence of his growing suspicion against the parents.
Good for Detective Jones. I wish more cops were like that.
Yeah. So, in a bid to steer things up, Detective Jones enlisted the help of Shabana Gulati, a well known Muslim actress, to read poems that Shafilea had hidden in her journal. He hoped that the actress's media presence would create pressure on those who may know something. It didn't, though. And it's absolutely devastating to think about how the Desi community was reluctant or silent instead of coming forward with information that could have helped uncover the truth about Shafilea. As weeks passed, media coverage shifted from focusing on Shafilea as a missing person to suggesting she might have been involved in an honor killing. So the
Oh,
headlines did switch. Iftikhar and Farzana's stance also changed. They became increasingly defensive and angry about being linked to their daughter's disappearance.
well, duh. Of course they're going to be linked. They were the last people to see her.
And even their behavior since is so odd. You're not making appeals, you're not coming out in the public. You falsely identified a Turkish girl as your daughter.
Mhm.
You claim her boyfriend is the last one to see her. You've turned around and even said, even if I killed 40 people without concrete evidence, the police can't do anything to me. It's all red flags pointing towards you.
Mhm.
So the police, they would hold press conferences without inviting the family. And this was a deliberate strategy to appeal for information. But during one such conference, now remember the headlines have changed from missing person to allegedly an honor killing case.
Mhm.
So during one such conference, Iftikhar and Farzana unexpectedly appeared with their lawyer Milton. And then right then, all the cameras, they shifted their focus onto them. And their lawyer Milton, he accused the Cheshire police of Islamophobic and racial stereotyping. In a climate where no professional wanted to be seen as biased or worse, racist, Iftikhar and Farzana exploited issues of race and religion to shift the focus away from themselves. Milton later expressed regret over his actions. He admitted that at the time he did not believe the accusation of honor killing was true. In fact, he did not want it to be true. His aim was to challenge the stereotype that all Asian families are involved in honor based violence. He wanted to highlight that such generalizations are unfair and inaccurate.
Maybe in other cases that would be true, but in this particular case, I feel like that's exactly what this is. It's an honor situation.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Milton, no matter how apologetic you are, you did do what you did and you did represent the scums. So,
Yeah,
sorry, apology not accepted.
not accepted. Following the allegations of racism, the investigation team decided to take a step back. Obviously, you don't mess with that. But Detective Jones, he was resolute in his commitment to the case. Despite his previous tactics proving ineffective, he chose to re interview Iftikhar and Farzana separately, hoping that one of them might reveal crucial information or turn against the other. And I will put up these interview clips on our Instagram. So check them out there. The interview was the usual denial. It wasn't us. You're using our race against us. You're using our religion against us. You're generalizing and a lot of fake tears. Yeah.
Now the fake tears come out, eh?
Yeah. Shafilea Ahmed was reported missing on September 18, 2003. Despite the initial efforts, the case went cold by December 2003.
Wait. So from September till December, she was still just declared as missing?
No body's been found. And then there was a slight hope in late December 2003 when Iftikhar and Farzana Ahmed were arrested on charges related to obstructing justice. They faced allegations of controlling Shafilea, holding her against her will, and taking her to Pakistan without her consent. The arrest was a significant development in the case, raising hopes that maybe new evidence might finally surface. However, just 36 hours after their arrest, Iftikhar and Farzana were released due to insufficient evidence. Again, there's silence everywhere. Nobody is speaking out. If this case went cold for so long, it's because nobody spoke about what they knew.
Mhm.
But Detective Jones kept this case open regardless. But with the release of Iftikhar and Farzana and the wall of silence he faced by the rest of the family and every Desi member in the community, it left the case in a state of limbo. In Feb 2004, 5 months after Shafilia's disappearance, workmen discovered a body in the River Kent, Cumbria, about 70 miles from Warrington. The condition of the body suggested it had been intentionally concealed, but the floodwaters had subsequently exposed it. The flood had scattered the remains, leading to considerable decomposition, making it difficult to ascertain the exact cause of death. Dr. Alison Armour, a Home Office pathologist, ruled out natural causes. She noted, quote, in this case, death has occurred elsewhere. The most likely cause of death would be smothering or strangulation, unquote. Part of the skull was missing, but there were no signs of blood on the clothing to suggest a head injury. Inspector Mike Forrester stated, quote, it was unclear whether all of the body parts had been found, unquote.
Okay, so the body was so decomposed that they weren't even able to have like complete body.
Yeah, it was completely dismembered. So they didn't even have the whole body.
My God, that is that's so sickening. And to know that 90%, 99%, it was the parents that did this is like, whoa.
Yeah. God. And imagine it's 5 months after her disappearance, right? So like
Yeah,
the
I understand the decomposition element. That's a
and
long
then
time.
being in water.
Yeah, which expedites it.
Yeah. God. But among the items recovered with the body were a gold zigzag bracelet and a blue topaz ring. Detective Jones, though not directly responsible for the area where the body was found, chose to make the 70-mile trip to investigate. But before heading out, he did inform Iftikhar and Farzana about the discovery of the body. And Naz, for the first time, Iftikhar and Farzana appeared panicked upon hearing the news.
Oh, now they're panicking.
Yeah, because before there wasn't a body, so there was no need to, act panicked or frazzled. But when Detective Jones said, "Oh, we've discovered a body. It is a female body," he's like, "This was the first time it actually felt like they were disturbed. Like, oh shit."
But did they really think that if they put the body in any sort of body of water, that it would never get exposed or that it would never be found? I mean, if they had buried it somewhere, there's probably a bigger chance of it not being discovered. But come on, with water, like at some point, the body will rise to the surface.
Yeah, I think he chose to even take her body to River Kent because A, it was 110 kilometers away from Warrington,
Mm.
and B, Like he said something to the terms of, if you ever want to hide a body and you don't want people to know and you don't want the body to be found, then River Kent is where it needs to be hidden. The thing is, Shafilia's body would have remained hidden because of the way he concealed it. It just so happened that there were floods and the floods shifted the body, and that's how it was found. If there were no floods, they wouldn't have found the body.
Well, I guess thank goodness for those floods then.
Yeah. And then you're so smart, right? Like you go 110 kilometers away, you drive there, you conceal the body, but you're dumb enough not to remove her clothes or her ring or her bracelet, that no matter how decomposed the body gets, these are identification factors. But you're so
Yeah,
cocky.
that's a very rookie move. Clothes, okay, maybe they will decompose too, but something like jewelry, yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna remain.
But he was so sure that her body would not be found. Thank God his confidence and cockiness eventually like
Caught
blasted on
up
his
with him.
face. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, now we are speculating this is Shafilea, right? Because they haven't done a DNA test yet. A month after that, DNA testing confirmed that the body was indeed Shafilea Ahmed. Although her body was badly decomposed and dismembered, her dentist was able to confirm this based on dental work.
Yeah.
He stated that he was 90% certain the lower jaw found belonged to Shafilea. The discovery of Shafilia's body, along with the details of her death, marked a pivotal shift in the investigation. It went from a missing person case to a homicide investigation. Police arrested Iftikhar and Farzana on suspicion of murder and interviewed them. But again, due to insufficient evidence, they were released on bail. So there's no new evidence even after the body's been found. Shafilia's siblings were interviewed, but they echoed their parents' story to the police, claiming she had run away and they had no idea what happened to
I'm sure deep down her siblings were terrified because it's like they all actually knew what happened, or at least
her.
they knew most of it. So I'm sure they're thinking we could be next.
Yeah. And this also comes up later. She was made an example of, which is why they kept their trap shut. Do you want what happened to Shafilea to happen to you?
Oh my God. That's so scary. How do you live like that?
It's actually disturbing that this family dynamic is not a one-off. It's so unfortunate. It's also
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of families like this.
yeah. And there's no surprise that the community also continued to remain silent. Shafilia's name was barely mentioned. In August 2004, Shafilia's funeral was held. It was attended by family, friends, and the local community. Despite suspicions that the parents might have been involved, no one came forward to share what they knew. For the police, the case seemed to be at a standstill, while within the Muslim community, Shafilia's fate served as a stark warning to others about the consequences of non compliance.
That's horrible. This whole thing is super messed up. But this the sad part about this is that Shafira didn't even really do anything that crazy. I mean, obviously, that's my opinion. Her parents would definitely beg to differ, but there's far worse that could have happened. So to make this an example for, parents to kind of threaten their children with, like, I just don't get it. Like, there's far worse that, that's happened or that does happen. Those people aren't made examples of. So why this?
I don't know. There has to be a sense of, yes, as parents telling your child this is right and wrong. It's now your decision. Decide whatever you need to, but with the wrong, there will be consequences. So you should be ready for that.
Hmm.
But this need to control, it is so embedded in our Desi culture.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's so innocent. It's so innocent. But the thing is, if they gave her allowance, then the rest of her sisters would probably cross that line. Or
Like I agree with what you're saying. It's like, oh, okay, if anything, they wanted to make their eldest child be the example that the rest could follow. Yeah, I get that.
and that usually
But
does happen in
it
Desi
does happen.
households.
That does happen. Yeah, yeah. Even in my own household, like I know that with my own parents, like they wanted to, make sure that if one of them, if the first child can set a good example, then the rest will follow. So I get that. I get that mindset completely. But at the same time, my parents also knew this, or like I'm hoping more parents know that each child has their own destiny as well. If they're meant to do something wrong, can you really hold all of your children against that? Like, again, not to say that Shafilea did anything wrong, but I'm just saying in general, even if she had, like, just because you have an example to follow, does that mean you're going to follow it? No, not necessarily. You still have your
No.
own brain, you still have your own ability to make decisions and to determine right from wrong, right? So it's actually quite silly for Shafilia's parents in this case to be like, we had to like make sure the first one didn't do anything kind of, out of the norm so that all the other ones follow suit. That there's no guarantee that that's going to happen.
Yeah, and quite often it does not happen like that.
Hmm.
This is a cultural situation or a technique in a Desi way of upbringing their children, which any Desi family will agree that the eldest is made an example of.
Hmm.
And the younger ones, you yourself will see with the younger one, the rules kind of change or
Yeah, they do.
they ease up because
And
it
they
doesn't
should, right?
always work. Yeah.
They should ease up because with time, you have to change your own views as to what's acceptable and what's not. What
Yeah.
used to be acceptable back in the day,
Mhm.
is different than what's acceptable now. And like we see this
Absolutely.
all around us. It's not just in upbringing a child, but even like in curriculums for school or in
Mhm.
like socially what you can say and what you can't say or opinions you can hold and opinions you can't hold. Like things constantly change.
Mhm.
So in this case, again, there's no guarantee that by the time the youngest is, Shafilia's age, she'll be following her exact footsteps. Like, no. Even if
Yeah.
Shafilia was an angel child, there's no guarantee that the youngest is going to be like that.
I agree. I agree. Every child is different. Every child has a different personality. But parents who have that control want to mold the child's personality to such an extreme that it's compliance, it follow my instruction, kill your own individuality. Here's the example, your eldest sibling, and anything that goes outside of that, you're punished for it, you're threatened for it, you're put down for it, you're insulted for it. And
Mhm.
it's such a bizarre mindset. And it's
Yes.
crazy that people still have that mindset even now in 2024. Just like what you just said, things have changed. What worked 40 years ago does not work today.
Hmm.
But it just screams how insecure, how and how much of a fixed mindset the parents have, where you don't find the need to change and you put all that pressure on your children and they don't deserve it, no matter what they do.
Hmm.
So, with all this silence around, Detective Jones and his team understood that breaking this case open hinged on a family member coming forward with the truth about Shafilia's murder. In Jan 2008, 4 years after Shafilia's death, Detective Jones led a 4-day inquest. However, with no new evidence to propel the case forward, public interest began to wane, the media coverage diminished, and the case went cold again. But then in August 5th, 2010, this is 7 years after Shafilia's death, a very significant event occurred. Iftikhar and Farzana's residence was robbed by three masked men armed with guns. So this is what happened. Shafilia's sister, she returned home from university. On her arrival, she entered the house accompanied by three masked men. Each of them were armed with a pistol, a metal bar, and a hammer. And at this particular time, Iftikhar was not at home. The intruders, they tied everyone in the house with cable tie except for A. Farzana, M, F, and Junaid were forced to lie on the floor during the robbery. Junaid was kicked with a steel toe cap shoe. At some point, he managed to loosen his bond and attempted to tackle the robbers, but was beaten down for his effort. One of the sisters was struck on the shoulder with a hammer. A, Shafilia's sister, led the robbers upstairs to help steal money and jewelry from Farzana's room. Once they had what they wanted, the robbers fled, but A remained behind. So obviously, this robbery is conducted by A,
Wow, good for Abe.
and her family, because they were tied, their mouths were not shut, so they started calling her really nasty, venomous things. She called the police. She stepped outside. She sat on the pavement, and she waited for the police to arrive. By this time, Iftikhar also came home. He untied Farzana, M, S, and Junaid. They all rushed outside, started hovering on A, still calling her really, really nasty things. And at this time, the first police officer on the scene, he arrived, and he said he was deeply, deeply concerned for A because of just the way, the hate and the venom that they were throwing at her. And Farzana and Iftikhar, they told the police that there has been a robbery and the mastermind behind the crime was A. So to arrest her, and that's exactly what they did. But when they arrested her, A said, I know what happened to my sister.
Oh, wow. So after so many years, she has finally had, I guess, the courage to speak up and to orchestrate this whole robbery. I wonder why it took so long, but better late than never.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. During questioning, A claimed that she was merely taking what she believed was rightfully hers. A specifically requested to speak with Detective Jones. And again, shout out to Detective Jones because although he was on vacation at the time, he returned immediately when he heard that A was asking for him. Despite facing threats, beatings, and abuse, A felt it was finally time to confess the truth about Shafilia's murder. For Detective Jones, he had long hoped that someone in the family would crack, and now A was about to do just that. So on August 31st, 2010, A provided a witness statement. Although suspicion had long pointed towards the parents, A's testimony provided the crucial evidence needed to proceed with charging and arresting Iftikhar and Farzana Ahmed. On 2nd September 2010, Iftikhar, 52 years old, and Farzana, 49 years old, were arrested on suspicion of murdering their 17-year-old daughter, Shafilea Ahmed. In May 2011, the murder trial began. A served as a key prosecution witness. She was screened from her parents in court, but the jury could see her. A recounted the exact details of what happened on 11 September 2003. Farzana had picked Shafilea up from her part time job, and Shafilia's attire, a short sleeved shirt, angered Farzana. They both, they both started arguing from the time Farzana picked Shafilea up to the time they got home. And the argument just escalated. As Iftikhar was home, he joined in. Iftikhar and Farzana, they took turns beating Shafilea, and then Farzana handed Iftikhar a plastic bag and instructed him to quote, Bas khatam karo ise, which means just finish it here. And trigger warning. They restrained Shafilea on the sofa and stuffed the plastic bag into her mouth. They both placed their hands over her mouth and nose to stop her from breathing. And remember, she's still recovering from the burn that she has from drinking the bleach.
Mhm.
This led to Shafilea kicking her legs and arms. The horrific act ended with Shafilea urinating on the sofa before she stopped moving completely. A and her siblings witnessed the brutal murder of their sister. They were all present in the room, helplessly watching as their parents took Shafilia's life. At this time, Junaid was 14, A was 12, M was 9, and S was 6. This experience undoubtedly left them with profound and unimaginable trauma. I can't even begin to fathom the fear and intimidation they must have endured daily, always aware that they could be next. Following A's testimony, she was given protection. The jury found her detailed account of Shafilia's final moments credible, concluding it could not have been fabricated. The trial garnered extensive national attention, shining a light on the horrific case of Shafilea Ahmed, who was murdered by her own parents in order to protect their so called honor. And of course, all the siblings were deeply disturbed by what they had witnessed their parents do. We know that A clearly was, which is why when she just couldn't take it anymore, when she was 16, she displayed remarkable courage by finally revealing the truth about her sister Shafilia's murder. Yet Shafilia's other sister, M, was also deeply affected by this horrific event. The trauma of Shafilia's abuse and murder became an unbearable weight for M. M confided in her best friend, Shaheen Munir, whom she had met through the mosque. She opened up about the abuse she had witnessed against Shafilia and revealed that she too was enduring similar torture and mistreatment.
So at this point, many years have passed, and just goes to prove our point exactly that the torture and the control didn't just stop with Shafilea Ahmed's death.
Mm-mm.
Obviously, her siblings, I think mainly the girls,
Yeah.
are undergoing very similar situations at home.
Yeah.
So I guess it was just maybe a matter of time if they didn't get caught that maybe there would be another fatality in their own household. So
That
thank
that's
God that A spoke up.
that's what's really scary. That if A had not spoken up, I don't know. I don't know. Like I don't even want to think about that. But yeah, I'm just so glad A spoke up. M also expressed genuine concern and fear for her safety, worried that if her parents discovered that she had shared sensitive information with Shaheen, they might harm both of them. She was very vocal about the things that she endured and the things that she had witnessed Shafilia endure. But there was constant fear that if someone finds out that she's been sharing these details with Shaheen, it's not going to end well for her. And again, imagine, you're young, you've witnessed your parents kill your older sister, you're probably constantly in this state of fear that if you say the wrong thing, or if you do the wrong thing, or if you make a mistake, I could share the same fate as my sister. My parents have that capacity to do to me what they did to her.
Plus, for so many years, Farzana and Iftikhar probably felt like they got away with the murder of Shafilia. So that probably gave them even more confidence to,
Mhm.
you know, if they needed to do the same thing to another child, they know that,
Yeah.
oh, we got away with it the first time, we'll get away with it again.
There seems to be no sense of reflection or no sense of remorse. It's like one child done, okay, bring up the next one. Let's see how much she challenges me, or we'll fix her.
Hmm. Yeah, very gross.
So during one such conversation with Shaheen, they were in the mosque, and M revealed that she had been carrying a heavy emotional burden within her and she needed to get it off her chest, but she can't speak about it. So Shaheen suggested that she should write it all down for her and give it to her in a form of a letter.
Mm.
So M complied, and then she messaged Shaheen and she told her, I've written the letters. The letters, they disclosed the same chilling details about the night Shafilia was murdered. The account matched A's testimony, but it went on to describe how after killing Shafilia, the children were sent to their room.
Why
M,
not
I
send
think,
them to their rooms before?
no, because they wanted to make sure that they all saw and it rectified who is in control, made an example of
What about the emotional damage that the kids now have for the rest of their lives?
for the rest of their life. I don't know, these parents don't think about that. They only care
Mhm.
about control, they only care about threatening and uh, keeping their kids fearful of them. What setbacks that would have on the kids, they don't care about that.
Mhm.
And emotional damage, what's that? In a Desi community, what emotional damage? Bhai? I don't know. That generation does not seem to recognize that everything they do comes back. It has effect.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when she went up to her room, from her bathroom window, she saw Iftikhar carrying a large object wrapped in a bin bag and tape, and she assumed obviously this is her sister. So he left the house to dispose of the body. And by that time, Farzana came upstairs. She laid in bed with the children and she acted as if nothing had happened, just went about like normal. So Em eventually asked Shaheen to return the letters. She was very, very anxious that if her parents found out that there was written confirmation of what she knew and what they did, they would not leave her. Unaware of what Shaheen's actions were, M received the letters back. She was completely oblivious to the fact that they had been photocopied. So thank God Shaheen thought of photocopying them, although it's a little deceptive, but I think she did it in the hope of if ever needed, if ever something happened to best friend, she has this as evidence that her parents are involved.
Yeah, that was smart.
So the minute Shaheen handed the letters back to M, she immediately tore them up without a second thought. The weight of their contempt too heavy for her to bear. After that moment, they never spoke about what had been written, the silence echoing their unspoken fears. But in 2011, during the trial, Shaheen contacted the police, revealing that she had crucial information for the investigation. She met with the authorities, she expressed her admiration for A's bravery, and she handed over the photocopies of M's letters. In one extract from her writing, M wrote, quote, 3 times she ran away, but they got her. Another line stated, quote, she didn't do nothing, shouting time after time. What did she do? That's it. Space of 1 to 2 minutes, gone. 1 to 2 minutes, that's all it took to take Shafilia's life. The letters also included lines such as, quote, I wish I'd never seen it, but I did. And the same thing is going to happen to me. Can you believe it, Naz? Not only did their vile actions not stop with Shafilea, after murdering her, they continued the same abuse with A and M.
Yeah, that's not unexpected. I fully expected that. Until they got caught, this would continue on and on.
Just disgusting people become parents.
Yeah, that's true. It's like they should never be allowed to become parents.
Which is why I believe everyone before becoming parents should go through some sort of psychological test because not everyone deserves to be parents, to be honest. Anyway, during the trial, M was called as a witness, but she denied that her parents were responsible for Shafilia's murder. She claimed that the letters were merely fictional writing. M and Junaid, they both defended their parents. They asserted that they had not witnessed Iftikhar and Farzana killed Shafilia. But despite the setback, the jury had enough evidence to reach a verdict. And on August 2012, after 9 agonizing years, Iftikhar and Farzana Ahmed were found guilty of murdering their daughter Shafilia.
Thank God.
It took them 9 years.
Yeah, that's too long.
And I just imagine in those 9 years, what did A and S go through?
That's true.
They were sentenced to 25 years to life in prison without the possibility of parole. At the sentencing of Farzana and Iftikhar Ahmed, Judge Roger described the case as, quote, a tragic and appalling example of a parent's betrayal of their child, unquote. He emphasized that Shafilea was in a vulnerable state when they killed her, still weak from the effects of the bleach she had ingested in a desperate attempt to escape their plans for her in Pakistan. The judge also highlighted the severe impact of Shafilia's death on her surviving siblings who were forced to witness the brutality. He condemned their actions as driven by a perverted sense of honor, noting the unimaginable suffering they had inflicted on their daughter. M cut ties from her best friend Shaheen. She, Junaid, and their other sister S still stand by their parents, claiming they are innocent. A's bravery, despite the long silence, played a crucial role in bringing her parents to justice. She continues to live under police custody. And in respect to the robbery A was arrested for, on her sentencing, the judge stated, quote, "You and your siblings were warned to keep silent. You were told, we all know what happens to disobedient girls. Your mother and father had justified what they had done on the grounds that your sister Shafilea had Western friends and wanted to live a Western life and did not want an arranged marriage. After the killing, your brother quickly told you and your sisters that Shafilea had deserved it."
What a messed up kid.
He goes on to say, "It is not surprising that relations with your parents were poor. This was a home where there had been consistent physical beatings. The beatings were confined to the girls. Your brother was spared. On your account, it was your mother, not your father, who was most angry and violent. I didn't expect that it was Farzana who egged Iftikhar on, basically."
I think it was also her way of showing quote unquote obedience to her husband. It's
Mm.
so messed up.
That's true.
She's the one who handed the bag, the
Mm.
plastic bag to Iftikhar. So technically, the murder weapon or whatever you want to call it was in her hands, right?
Yeah,
She
that's
could
true.
have right there and then stopped it. She could have her motherly instinct or her love for her daughter could have stopped the murder before it took place, but she was like, let's just finish it off, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's true. So the judge goes on to say the unpredictable violence throughout your childhood and the absence of ordinary parental protection changed and distorted your personality even before your sister's death. By summer of 2010, you had left home and you were the subject of some hostility from your parents and indeed your siblings. Your sister M had tried to break away too, but as Mr. Justice Roderick Evans puts it, she was, quote, recaptured and brought home and has since become compliant with your parents' wishes and is hostile with you. So A actually during that robbery was not living at home. She did manage to get out. So she was then sentenced to 12 months imprisonment, which was suspended for a period of 2 years. And the condition was that during that period, she was supervised by the probation service. So that's what happened to A. I also want to mention that during the trial, Farzana in between did change her statement and said that I was forced into the beatings and into the abuse that I inflicted on Shafilea because my husband, if I didn't listen to him, then he would beat me, he would mistreat me. So, in order for me not to be abused, I had to do what he instructed me to do.
Honestly, that's the easiest defense for any woman.
Yeah.
It's such a misuse because she can just say that and maybe get some sympathy from the jury or from the judge
Hmm.
and then get off on a lighter sentence. But we all know in reality that's not the case.
Yeah. And I
And
think,
I hate that she
yeah,
brought it up.
yeah. And I think even the judge and the jury, they realize it's the tactic. So now to like turn around and say, oh, I'm the victim too? No.
Yeah, you don't get to say that.
What really, really makes me feel content about this case, which I don't usually feel content when I'm doing cases which are especially in Pakistan, is that I know for sure that these two vile, vicious devils, they're actually in jail.
Yeah, thank God. What was their sentence again?
25 years to life.
Okay.
and no possibility of parole. So this case, it's labeled as an honor killing, but it is nothing short of a cold, calculated murder. The term honor killing itself is deeply disturbing. I hope the parents not only face the full extent of justice in prison, but also suffer for the rest of their lives for what they did to Shafilea and for the ongoing torment they inflicted on A and M. It's horrifying to think about how many daughters might have been sacrificed in the name of their so called honor if they had not found the courage to come forward. In the UK, at least one such murder occurs every month, while in Pakistan, roughly 1,000 women are murdered each year under the guise of preserving family honor. Islam, in its true form, does not condone the murder of anyone, let alone one's own family member. The mindset driving these heinous acts is reprehensible, and the surrounding silence only continues to inflict suffering on daughters and wives who simply seek to live free from control, abuse, and oppression. As we wrap up this episode, let's not only remember Shafilea Ahmed for the tragic end of her life, but for the vibrant, hopeful 17-year-old she was. Shafilea had dreams, aspirations, and a desire to live freely and be accepted for who she truly was. During all the hardships she faced, her courage and resilience shone through, even in the darkest moments of her life. Her story stands as a powerful reminder of the urgent need to challenge outdated cultural norms, norms that continue to foster abuse and honor based violence. Shafilea was failed, not just by her parents and family, but by the authorities and the Desi community that turned a blind eye. Their relentless obsession with honor and shame overshadowed any affection or empathy they might have shown her. Each step she took away from their rigid boundaries was met with more isolation, more cruelty. In her poem Happy Families, Shafilea voiced this suffocating reality. Quote, I don't pretend like we're the perfect family no more. Desire to live is burning. My stomach is turning, but all they think about is honor. I was like a normal teenage kid, didn't ask too much. I just wanted to fit in. But my culture was different, but my family ignored. Now I'm sitting here playing happy families, still crying tears. But no, we're a happy family. I have these tears. I wish for a happy family. I lay in bed hoping the next day would be better. It was just a thought because it never happened, no. But I still dream of this today. Yeah, hey, I wish my parents would be proud of what I done. Instead, it's you have brought shame or something else lame. I don't want to hear this no more. Unquote. I hope this episode motivates you to challenge these harmful, toxic traditions and norms and motivates you to do your part in ensuring that no more lives are lost to such brutality. Thank you again for joining Crime Stories of Pakistan and a big shout out again to Abi Hussain for this case. Naz, any thoughts?
It's just disgusting. Like, this mindset has to change. Actually, don't foresee it changing, which is more sad to think about. But there are so many cases that we have in front of us, ones we've covered, ones we've heard about, where it's all about the honor. But in reality, there is no honor left.
No.
And if it truly was about the honor, I don't think such drastic measures would need to be taken to quote unquote correct the behavior. Because then there's no correcting. It's done and dealt with. It's finished. You cannot reverse death.
But you see, the crazy, crazy thing about people who have similar mindset, for them, they're like, parents had to do what they had to do to respect and keep the respect of their reputation and their honor and their family name. So messed up. There's so many people who cheer on.
Yeah,
And
which
I
is why I
think,
said I don't foresee it. I don't foresee it ending. I just
yeah,
one can always hope.
so you start from within your home, the
Mhm.
people in your home. And I think it is for us to change these outdated attachments to honor and you want to really protect your honor, then put that burden on men too. Put it on your boys because that's how it should be. Why is the girl alone responsible of maintaining the family's honor?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this generation is not scared to question old traditions, norms, and thinking. And that's a start. It definitely is a start. And I think we are kind of moving also away from this is not a religiously driven act. But this generation, I think, is even more confident in the aspect of let's not go to religion because that's not what the religion preaches. This is a cultural thing. This is us generations have been thinking this way and we got to change it.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a step in the right direction. But like I said, one can only hope that at some point this will become a very obsolete practice. No one will ever do it. It won't be a terminology that everybody's aware of because, frankly speaking, right now, it's everybody has heard of at least one case in their life
Mm.
where honor
Mm.
was the reason behind somebody's murder. And I
Yeah.
just find that to be such an oxymoron because there's no honor in murder.
And Naz, what scares me is that Jeanette today is probably married with kids. And I don't
Mm.
even want to think about if he has daughters, is he making the same mistakes? Is he repeating the pattern?
Well, you know what they say, the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. But yes, it's very scary if you think about it.
And I think this is why it's so important to follow up and for the authorities to follow up and for people to now use social media in a way where you hold people accountable. Where is Junaid? He's still standing by his father. Does he have a family? How does he treat his children? Social services needs to go and investigate.
I agree, they definitely should.
But that is the case of Shafilea Ahmed.
Well, thank you for narrating this case to us, Jihan.
You're welcome.
There was similarities with other honor cases, but there are definitely some differences. So, it just goes to show that people are really sick and twisted and they will go to any lengths to, keep their reputation.
Yeah.
But anyways, thank you for listening to Crime Stories of Pakistan. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review wherever you get your podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Crime Stories of Pakistan for updates and photos about the cases we cover. Also, do you have a case you'd like us to investigate? Well, if you do, send us your suggestions at crimestoriesofpakistan@hotmail.com. So, from your hosts, Naz and Jehan, keep questioning, keep seeking, and remember, truth always finds a way. Bye.
Bye, guys.